Today, I want to talk about 5 things I've learned as a first-generation homemaker. If you are new to my channel, here we talk about classic living and traditional values, and I would love if you would consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. I've recently been on a homemaking journey. I've called it my homemaking experiment, as I am kind of going through this change, going from someone who was more of a girl boss and more like ambitious, and really realizing that I find my worth and my joy at home. It's very interesting. I made a video a few months ago talking about my feelings about fulfilling my potential. And ever since I made that video, I really made an effort to understand why homemaking was so important and to find joy in my job and to really appreciate how much I get to do with my son and taking care of my home. And I feel like my perspective has actually changed. Like, I do not feel like I could fulfill my potential anywhere else better than where I am now, which is an incredible thing. Because if you had asked me that 6 months ago, I would not have said that. But I wanted to share with you guys 5 things I've learned on this homemaking journey, which I am still on. I'm always going to be on, but definitely right now I'm still on it because I kind of realized as I was making this list for today's video that I'm basically a first-generation homemaker. Now, when I say that, I mean my ancestors many years ago were, I'm sure, homemakers. So it's not as if no woman in my history has ever done this role. But my immediate past, my mom and my grandmother, they were not homemakers. So I have had to kind of learn on the job how to really embrace this role. So I'm really excited to share these 5 lessons, things with you guys. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope it helps you if you are a first-generation homemaker. And for those of you who are not, who were raised by homemakers yourself, I'd love to hear in the comments things that you learned from your mothers. Now, before I continue, I do want to say, and I feel like I have to preface this in every video I make because people might assume something different, but my relationship with my mom is amazing. I absolutely love her. We are really, really close, and we talk about this stuff all the time, despite the fact that she wasn't a homemaker and I am. So I'm so grateful for that relationship, and it just informs the choices that I make now. So let's get into it. I'm really excited. Let's go. P.S. If you didn't know, I am 32 weeks pregnant, so if I sound out of breath, that is why. I am getting ready for another baby. I'm so excited. We're getting close now, close-ish, and we're having another boy, in case you didn't know. I already have a son, so that's some background on where I'm at. But let's start with number 1, and number 1 is cooking. I used to think that I knew how to cook. Like, I thought that I was an okay cook because my mom is an okay cook. My mom can cook, she can, but she does have a rule, and she's very open about this rule, that if something has more than 2 steps, it's not gonna happen, she's not doing it. So for her, cooking was always a fastest means possible to get to the end, and she would make things that were very simple, very quick, and were fine, but maybe not great. And so that was my perspective on cooking. You cook as quickly as possible to get it on the table. It should be tasty enough, but it doesn't need to be fancy. And it wasn't until I met my husband that my perspective really changed. And I'd been married for a while. So my husband loves good food, and his love language is definitely having someone make him good food. Like, if somebody spends the time to make him a good meal, he feels very loved. Now, he asked me for a while at the beginning of our marriage to invest a little more time and energy into learning how to cook better. And to be honest, I took offense at that. I really didn't like it initially. I thought that he was kind of bothering me. I thought that I was a good enough cook. And it wasn't until I really thought about it and realized that cooking is more than just sustenance. It's not just something we do to get calories in. And it's not just something that's fleeting and then disappears, that it's an experience, and that it can be something that brings people together. And that it is important to find a joy in cooking and love it as a hobby. That my perspective shifted. It took me a while. I initially really pushed back. I thought that, everyone is too busy to cook a nice meal. Everyone has too much going on. There's no way that I could really do this, and I don't know why you expect this of me. And then as we kind of started reading books on cooking together, and I started investing more time and energy into my cooking, and I got better at cooking quickly and well, that all of this started to make sense. I was like, oh, cooking is actually something you really can make a hobby, you really can enjoy, and you can get closer to people through it. And so we actually read the book Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat right after my son was born. My husband would read it to me while I was nursing, and that book really changed the way that we cook. Now, my husband is more comfortable just cooking without a recipe. I personally enjoy using a recipe as kind of a jumping off point and then playing around with things as I'm cooking to change it, to make it more delicious, to kind of go with our preferences more. And I've learned a lot about cooking in the last few years. And one of the things that my husband said as well that really stuck out to me was the idea that there was a time that people talked about grandma's home cooking or mom's home cooking, and it's such a meaningful thing for them. It's such a meaningful thing to look back on about home. And that's what stuck out to me, is that as a homemaker, I want my children to look back on the food that I gave them as tasty and as really kind of warm and inviting. And I could learn how to do that. I could find joy in it. It wasn't just a chore anymore. And I think if you're exploring homemaking as kind of the next step of your life, then cooking and learning how to cook and embracing how to cook is important, especially in today's day and age where so many people, but also women, kind of act like, ha ha, isn't it funny? I don't even know how to boil water. I don't even know how to cook. My husband either cooks everything or we just do takeout a bunch. And I'm not saying that men can't cook and a man can't take the leadership role in cooking. I just think that there is beauty in a woman cooking for a man because men feel loved when they are cooked for. And also that you should know how to cook. Like it's a good skill to have. And that's a skill that I have really developed and has made me a happier homemaker. Number 2 is cleaning. I have learned how to clean since becoming a homemaker in a way that I didn't before. For me in the past, cleaning really meant tidying. I really only cared about having clean kind of sight lines. And that is still, I would say, my top priority. I hate clutter. I hate mess. It makes me crazy. And if I have to prioritize something, it's going to be that. I want everything to have its place. I want to know where things live. And if they don't, then they just stay out on the counter because we don't know where to put them. So it does encourage us to declutter so that we don't have too many things that don't have a place to go. But I didn't really understand how to clean until I became a homemaker. And I realized the importance of being clean, that it's not just about tidiness, that it's also about cleanliness. And both things are very important. And I think that having a home that is untidy and also unclean, it's not good for anyone's mental health, for the people living there, for the people who come to visit. It can be an uncomfortable experience. So I feel very strongly about keeping a clean home. I think it makes a really important impact on all of the people who enter there and live there. So this year, I think, has really been a big learning curve for me on cleaning because I didn't used to kind of vacuum or mop regularly, and I didn't used to do laundry every day, and I didn't used to immediately wash the dishes. I would let them pile up. Now that I have a baby, a toddler, and I have another baby on the way, you kind of have to be more aware of these things because number 1, there are always more messes. Everything is always a little bit dirtier. But number 2, if you don't take care of things in a timely manner, they will build up very quickly. So one thing that I've just absolutely loved is having a Crosswave Bissell vacuum mop. That has been a huge game changer. I use that once a week, every single week, and that vacuums and mops the floor. Now, sometimes I'm vacuuming just little messes here and there, but my big floor clean for the week happens every single week. Now, 2 years ago, I didn't do that. And nowadays I do that. There's also a part of this that may have to do with, owning my own home. I think you can make a rental a place that feels like home, but owning your own home also has an impact on how you treat it, or it should. Like you should be treating your property with respect. And so I love having a home that is mine, and so I want to take care of it. And so I take pride in cleaning my home. So I do the floors once a week, and that has been a big game changer. Although I also have a Swiffer wet jet and a broom that stays next to my son's high chair since he insists on throwing all of his food on the floor. but I also will immediately put any dishes from the sink into the dishwasher. And just staying on top of being more clean, recognizing that even if you're not keeping things as clean as you would like, that you notice when things aren't clean, so you can kind of make a mental note to come back to it. And I think that having a clean home is a very vital part of homemaking because it does make people feel more comfortable, more welcome, and more relaxed. Number 3 is improving my demeanor. Now, P.S., my son was out for a walk and now he's home, so you may hear him in the background. But one thing that I really did learn, and I think has been a huge game changer in being a homemaker, is improving my demeanor. We live in a day and age where people want to be very honest and open about their mental health. And I think that that's great. I think it's really important for us to see, not everything is perfect. Not every single moment of your life is like happy-go-lucky. Don't get me wrong. I agree with that. I think that that's important to share. And it's better for everyone's mental health to know that, the highlight reel isn't real life. But at the same time, I think there's a pressure to complain all the time. There's a pressure to kind of say how hard your life is, how hard your day-to-day is, to prove that you're working hard, to prove that it's kind of like this hustle culture. Look how hard I'm pushing, and I have to complain about it because it's just a lot. So I kind of fell into that. I would sort of complain about my homemaking responsibilities and how hard it was. And I would talk about it all the time. And the truth is that in complaining, I found that my moods became more negative. It wasn't that I complained because my moods were negative. It was that I complained, which made my moods negative. And I became less content with my day-to-day because I found it necessary to complain in order to show how hard things were. And don't get me wrong, homemaking and being a stay-at-home mom is hard. It is very hard, just like so many other careers, and anything that you do all day is going to be hard, and there are some days that are harder than others. But for the most part, keeping a grateful mentality, staying positive, and recognizing that you don't have to complain to prove that things are difficult, that you don't even have to say that things are hard, that it's okay if you love your day-to-day and you enjoy it. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think there's this pressure to say no, my days are so difficult, you don't know how hard it is, rather than being no, I love my day-to-day. It's actually awesome. Yeah, I had some hard days here, or I had a hard moment here and there, or maybe one day out of 5 was difficult. But for the most part, my day-to-days are really nice and fun, and I'm really happy. Isn't it weird to say that? It feels almost like you have to feel guilty for saying that. You can't just say, oh, I enjoy my life. I know that sounds funny, but it kind of feels like that. Once I changed my outlook and stopped complaining as my go-to, I found that I was a much happier person. And the reason I'm bringing this up as a lesson that I learned as a homemaker was that when I improved my demeanor, I could be a better mother and a better wife to my son and to my husband. And I could be the kind of homemaker that people wanted to come home to, that my son was happy to be around. And I want to be the kind of homemaker that shares joy and brings joy to others. So if you find that you are struggling with staying positive, consider your outlook. Consider what you feel pressured to show and feel, and maybe try to be more grateful. The 4th lesson that I learned is treating homemaking like a job. We don't really have a formal education for homemaking, and I don't know that there should be formal education, but I do think that it would be great to have some sort of education about homemaking, to have some sort of course that talks about all the things we're talking about: cooking, cleaning, time management, which I'm going to touch on, your demeanor, and different ways to approach parenting and homemaking. I think that would be wonderful, but we don't really have that. And so what ends up happening, I think, for a lot of women who become homemakers without necessarily having seen it growing up or making a deliberate choice initially, is that they kind of don't know how to approach it, and they don't take it super seriously initially. And so they think, okay, well, time is fungible and everything is a little more laid back and relaxed, and I don't have to research or learn. I'm just going to learn on the job. And essentially what all of this does is create an environment of chaos. If you don't treat homemaking like your job, If you are not constantly trying to learn, if you are not constantly trying to improve and research and treat your day-to-day like something you need to get dressed and ready for, try and have some sort of schedule, you're going to end up feeling very overwhelmed. Homemaking is a job. It is your job. It is your career. And if you don't treat it that way, then it will end up feeling like a hobby that's gotten out of control. So it's important to take it seriously. Do your best to be the best at your job, at your career. I can say that I'm at a point where I feel confident that I am learning to be the best at this job that I can. And that's my goal, is like, I want to be the best homemaker that I can be. That means that I'm going to research. That means that I'm going to study. That means that I'm going to take every day seriously and not just imagine that things will fall into place because it's so easy and casual. So if you can approach homemaking with more of an eye toward the fact that it's something you can grow in and be the best at in, then you can enjoy it more because it won't feel so chaotic and overwhelming. Last but not least, the fifth lesson that I've learned as a first-generation homemaker is time management. When you become a homemaker, you don't have a boss giving you deadlines. You have to figure that out on your own. And if you're not used to that, it can be a really big change. No one is going to tell you that you need to get something done except for you. And on top of that, if you tell other people that you can only get so much done in a day, they're gonna believe you because they aren't there standing over your shoulder watching your time card. It's important that you approach homemaking with an eye towards time management. And that doesn't need to be an incredibly strict schedule. For me, it's a flexible routine. For example, my son and I, we go out every morning, we do an activity. He takes a nap when we get home, and then the afternoons are kind of flexible. We can do homemaking chores, we can go grocery shopping, we can cook together, but it's a lot of understanding that things are going to change throughout the day because my son's nap isn't at the same time every day, which means he doesn't wake up at the same time every day. And I don't necessarily know if he's gonna take a good nap. So I can aim to get 2 hours of work done while he sleeps, but if he only takes a 45-minute nap, then I don't really have those 2 hours. And so it's very important for me to have kind of a changing schedule. So what I'll do is I have a to-do list that doesn't change, but next to that to-do list, I have a schedule and an erasable pen, which I can link if you're interested. And I will write out what I think my schedule is gonna look like. And as the day changes, I erase it and rewrite it. I erase it and rewrite it because every day does change. But taking seriously that you need to have some sort of time blocking and that you need to actually approach your day with an eye towards getting things done as opposed to scrolling on your phone or getting distracted, then you can get more done and be a better homemaker. Now, I do want to include in this, there are going to be times that you do have some downtime, and those are times you should be spending with your kiddos. You know, when you have a few minutes that the house is clean and you don't really have to go do something, run off and do a chore, or maybe even exercise or take a few minutes for yourself. Okay, so those are actually the two things that you can do. One is take a couple minutes for yourself, and the other is spend some time with your kids that is unstructured. So an unstructured time for you to play with your children is actually part of time management, because if you're using your time wisely throughout the day, then when you have a few extra minutes, you can use them with your kids or for yourself to recover and be a better mom. But I think that time management is just such an important element of homemaking, and that when homemakers don't take it seriously, they can feel like their days are too short. That they're like, I don't know how I'm supposed to get everything done. I don't know how I'm supposed to do the laundry, and I'm supposed to cook, and I'm supposed to clean. But if you view your schedule as yours because you are the CEO of your household, then you can actually get done most of what you want to get done. Maybe not everything, but most. And again, I want to emphasize that the coolest thing about being a homemaker is that you are the CEO of your household. You are the boss. You get to decide how your day is run. You get to decide how your household is run. And that is an amazing, really exciting thing. So don't take it for granted. Take advantage of it. So those are the 5 lessons that I've learned as a first-generation homemaker. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and I hope you'll subscribe to my channel as well as my Substack if you want to get access to my book club. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video.